Have you ever wished you could eavesdrop on a conversation with a millionaire? My name is Michelle Thompson. I'm a retired project controls engineer and business professor, and that's exactly what I'm going to do in this podcast. I get to ask the questions that everyone else wishes they could. I'm going to find out exactly how they were able to build their empires through automation and outsourcing. And I'm going to break it down in a way that helps you build your business to run on autopilot. Don't miss out on Automate to Dominate. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Automate to Dominate. Today, we have Cody Jefferson, and I am super stoked that he said yes to be on our podcast. This guy's been everywhere. He is been on USA Today, Entrepreneur multiple times, Anatomy of Marriage, Good Men Project, you name it, he's been on it. And of course, Pierre is going to be chewing a bone right up against the desk. That's awesome. So everybody say hi to Pierre.
Hey, Pierre.
Yeah. So Cody is one of probably the best speakers and coaches out there. And we're going to get into his 4 pillars of success. But before we do that, I want to dive in a little bit in the background. So Cody, welcome to the show.
Oh, listen, I'm so excited to be here. I'm Michelle. I'm honored to serve you and your community. So thanks for having me on.
Thank you. Can you tell us a little bit about your background and, how you kind of went from rock bottom to building what you have today?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, rock bottom is always kind of relative, right? For me, life was really good. I was a pastor. So I was in occupational ministry for close to 13 years, just walking alongside people in every facet of life. From young to old, I was a youth pastor. I was a worship pastor. I was a traveling musician, traveling speaker, kind of ran the gamut, as you do when you're in ministry. Like you wear 20 different hats. And the problem was that in that, I started to develop a real unhealthy balance with affirmation and with becoming what we would call a yes man. So consistently doing things to validate like my own self-worth. If I'm not useful, I'm not valuable. And I was married, and in that time, some things happened. I was working a lot. There was just so much going on that I ended up walking through a divorce. In the midst of that divorce, I ended up losing 8 family members and friends in different unrelated tragedies, murders, suicides, overdoses, motorcycle accidents. I mean, it was crazy. So while still being a pastor, while still doing the thing, and my body got to a point where it shut down. I went septic, almost died. Adrenal shut down, thyroid scramble, and my hormones just said no more. So it was then going septic that I made the decision to step out of occupational ministry, recognizing like I'm just going to keep killing myself to try and save everyone and do everything for everyone else, because there was so much insecurity inside of me trying to prove myself. And I recognized like if I can't show up for me, I can't show up for anyone. And I had a son at this point. He had just turned 1. I was like, if I can't, this is not the man I want him to be. And so it was from there on that Embrace the Line was born. So, and that's the company that I founded. And it was really like I looked high and low for a program, something to help me. Like I didn't need to be yelled at. I didn't need some sort of program to tell me I need to man up. What I needed was just someone to walk alongside me through really just the darkest season I had ever known. And I couldn't find it, so I created it. And I recognized there have to be more men like me out here. So now fortunate to lead a community of close to 4,500 men every week, and walking alongside entrepreneurs and business owners, solopreneurs, corporations, in helping them answer the questions that will help to get them to the next level in their personal and professional lives.
Yeah, and that's amazing. And you've kind of done almost a complete 180. Yeah. So now you're remarried, have 3 kids.
3 kids.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about life now.
Yeah. So life is amazing, right? Life is a gift. And I think now more than ever in the cultural climate that we're in, we're really starting to, in a beautiful way, slow down and see the beauty of what is around us and what's in front of us. We had this construct of what success was, right? And now we're starting to redefine that in real time. And some people, that's scary when we talk about mindset. Like it's it's unnerving when it's something new. And we'll talk about that later. But as for me, yeah, happily remarried to my wife, Kayla. She is extraordinary, one of the most extraordinary people I've ever met. She has two lovely girls that she brought into our marriage, and I have a son. And so together we have three kids, 11, 7, and 5. My 5-year-old is a son. She's got two little girls. Emmy is 7. She's amazing. She loves drums and she loves singing and she loves art and she's incredibly intelligent. And Aubrey is, my son's name is Stetson, and he loves sports and he's incredibly fun and zany. And then we've got Aubrey, who is incredible in her own way. She is autistic and has cerebral palsy and a seizure disorder. And so we homeschool her. And we also have 5 French bulldogs and 2 Harley Davidsons.
Absolutely.
I consider those family members as well.
I was going to say, what's life without 2 Harleys?
Listen, it's not a life I want to know. I'll tell you that.
It's true.
For those listening, you're going to maybe perhaps come find me on social media, which I hope you do, and say hello, shoot me a message. Like, I would love to connect. You're going to see that I am just covered in tattoos. So that's the joke of the whole thing.
So when you developed Embrace the Lion, you kind of came up with 4 pillars, right? So it's like head, heart, health, and habits. And like for those of you listening, there might be a little of a breakup right now just because we're literally right in the middle of the craziness going on with the coronavirus, and all the schools are back online. And so we're having like bandwidth problems, right? So now more than ever, it's like super important for us as business owners to be able to come together and bond and be able to give back. How are you helping people in this time, Cody?
Oh, listen. So one of the greatest gifts we can give anyone is our time and attention, right? Like, money comes and goes. Money's an energy, right? It's just an idea. And we're seeing that. Like, it's a construct. It's an idea that we've based success and comfort on, but it's not real. Like, it's a feeling, it's love. It's
basically, it's just a tool. It's a tool that we've made, that we've created to accomplish things.
It's an energy made manifest on paper. And so what I'm doing is the same thing that I've done, right, for the past nearly 2 decades, which is walking alongside people. So I wake up to close to 150 messages on my social media account every day, and just walking through and making sure that I'm intentional to connect with every single person, right? And some of that is the pastoral side, that's just never going to leave who I am. But one of the greatest things that we can do right now is everyone starts to pause. And I don't mean that in terms of slow down in their business, but as we all we recognize that for as busy as we are and for as disconnected as we all feel, like, we recognize now more than ever, we are actually all connected. We are an organism. Like, we have to stay inside right now so that the other doesn't get sick. Like, we are all very, very interconnected. And so making sure for me that I am, one, connecting to myself, connecting to my family, but then also those who take the time to reach out, to give them time and attention. And then for me to make sure that I'm reaching out to those that I care about, making sure that my clients are all taken care of and that they're continuing to move the needle forward in their lives and in their businesses. Some have had to make major pivots. So emotionally supporting them through that, remembering what we can control, managing our expectations and letting go of the things that we can't. So for me, it's helping people navigate a season that we have never known in our history.
And that's such a good point is, I think at this point, I would say just about every business has to pivot some way.
Sure.
Right? Because of what's going on. But that really all comes down to headspace, right? Mm-hmm. So what are you doing with your clients that's helping them get their head right to be able to get to the point where they can pivot and be able to help?
Yeah, that's a really, really great question. So like practically, right? Like one, having a really strong morning routine. Because having a strong morning routine, it's not about trying to be militant or because there's books written about it. There's books written about it because it works. It sets the tone for your day. I'm not telling you to wake up at 3 a.m. and go run 10 miles. But what I am saying is by waking up, by practicing gratitude. So many times we wake up and we immediately start to think scarcity. We think of all the things that we need to do. The world around us is crumbling. Like this is, the end of everything. And what am I going to, wait, hey, listen, there's plenty of time for us to speculate. So many times fear, right, is just a projection of the unknown. And so when we can focus on gratitude, fear can't live where gratitude lives. So we wake up and we focus on gratitude. We focus on three things that we're grateful for. And then we move into meditation, which for me is helping to create more space. So just focusing on breath, box breathing, up for 5, hold for 5, down for 5, and just stay for 5. And what we're doing is we're so quick to react. So it's just teaching the subconscious to create that space in between a stimulus and a response versus reaction. Typically react. So we want to create more space to respond. That's what meditation does. Clears the brain. Right? Then we speak affirmations. Right? The words that you speak over yourself, they matter, and they matter to your subconscious. And then we read. So we read every morning, we journal every morning, and then we push into moving our body, taking a shower, getting dressed for the day. Listen, so many are migrating now to the workplace from home. Make sure that you're still getting ready, that you're still taking care of yourself, that like you're still treating this as a workspace. So dedicating a specific workspace, whatever that needs to look like. That way you're not on your bed in your PJs trying to do work. Like that doesn't set you up for success. So trying to keep as many useful habits as possible to keep routine, because this won't be forever. So setting yourself up for success, taking care of your mind first thing, taking care of your body first thing, but then also creating a robust plan, like making sure that you have your day mapped out, because things change now for most of us, right? Like we homeschool one of our kids, but for a lot of us, we have a very new reality of now kids are at home learning online while we're trying to now work from home online, and something we've not done before, while trying to pivot, and kids are trying to pivot. Like, give some grace. We're all trying to figure this out in real time. So manage your expectations, both as a business owner, as an employee, as a parent, as a human being.
So I'm going to push a little bit for the listeners that are like, Michelle, why are we talking about this? This is a podcast that's about software and automation and building passive income, and this doesn't get me any money. What are we doing? Help me explain to them why this is so important. And if you don't get this down, the rest of it isn't going to follow.
Yeah. So one, I can completely understand why one would think, what does this have to do with earning money? Right? Well, again, what is money outside of an idea? What is money outside of a feeling? When we can learn to manage our own feelings, our own emotions, when we take care of ourselves first, it puts us in a better place emotionally, physically, relationally, spiritually, to be able to make decisions and execute properly. When we talk about automation, like what I'm really trying to do is help you automate your life. Right? Like I'm helping you automate your morning. I'm helping you create routines, which is what this is all about. If it's not modeled in your daily life, how can you expect it to be successful in your professional life?
That's so true. And I mean, if you study any entrepreneur who's like been anyone, right? They all have these habits, right? They all
Absolutely.
journal, they all spend time on mindset. And, it's funny because I recently read a book called Atomic Habits.
Great book.
Yeah, if you guys listening haven't read Atomic Habits, get it. I would strongly recommend it. It will change the way that you think about why you need habits. But you're absolutely right. You can't just turn it on, turn it off, right? It's like it's a process, right? It's a way that we,
Well, and the very reason that someone would say, what does this have to do with anything, is the very reason they need it in their life.
It's true. And I know when I first started, I used to buck up against this all the time. I was like, oh my gosh, this is a waste of time. Why am I doing this? This isn't getting me any closer, but what's funny is when you do this and you clear that headspace that you're talking about, right? And you become laser focused and you just take small incremental steps every day. Those small incremental steps turn into this huge thing that you've created that you didn't have before. And I think that now more than ever, we need to remember that, because everything's falling apart, right? In some people's minds, like for some people, it's a real reality that they're having to lay employees off. They're not getting sales. People are hunkering down on money. It's affecting the economy. And so now would be the time, like, you want to freak out, but why this is, more important now than ever.
Well, sure. Again, we can focus where attention, right? Where attention flows, energy goes. And so you can spend your time, right? Like what do we have? We have time, we have money, and relationships. Those are the three things we can spend or invest. And so you can spend your time fear-mongering. You can spend your time speculating. You can spend your time on social media creating debates with people who are other armchair quarterbacks that really doesn't move anything forward, talking about politics and the current state of things that you really have no idea about, right? And you can dig yourself deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper into a tunnel of everything is working against me and this is never going to get better and my world is falling apart. Or life could be happening for you right now. You have more time with your family than you've had in a long time. You're forced to slow down. You're forced to pivot. You're forced to think and do really hard things that you haven't had to do before, right? And is it scary? Well, yeah, it's scary for everyone. Is it overwhelming? Yeah, it's overwhelming for everyone. Is it devastating? It's devastating for everyone. But again, shrinking isn't the answer. It is an answer. It's not the most useful answer. But what if life is happening for me through this? And instead of spending all of my time burying my head in the sand or pretending something doesn't exist or future pacing a reality that doesn't exist or jumping on social media and consuming a bunch of content from people that don't matter or spending time on news outlets that are feeding you a version of the truth, or you could say, I'm going to invest my time in controlling what I can, which is what I think, what I feel, how I act, what my daily habits are. Instead of freaking out, I'm going to read. Instead of freaking out, I'm going to go for a walk with my kids. Instead of freaking out, I'm going to go jump on my bike and go for a ride. Instead of freaking out, I'm going to stop focusing on problems. And now I'm going to pivot and I'm going to start thinking about solutions. Because as everything changes and everything evolves and everyone is forced to pivot or perish in business, focus on, okay, this is happening for me. This is giving me the opportunity to be innovative, to collaborate. I've been collaborating with so many people in my industry. I'm on this podcast with you today. Something that probably wouldn't have happened right now had this pandemic happened. Because all of my speaking gigs got pushed back. And so I just made a post and said, hey, anybody who wants me on their podcast, I'm typically pretty hard, it doesn't happen a lot because it's hard. I travel a lot. No, anybody that wants me on, let's go. How do you solve problems? How do you add value? How do you give peace in a world that is feeling unrest right now? Because that's what we need right now. Everybody's confused. And
it's so true. And you talked about, pivoting. And I think that is, it's almost, I don't want to, it's almost like you have to pivot or you're not going to make it. Like, for instance, I'll digress just a little bit. So when I had my stroke, I had to pivot. There was no option. My brain stopped working in a way that it used to work, right? It was like, somebody just took an eraser and now it's gone. And so, for a little while, I had myself a nice little pity party. But then after that, I was like, no, wait a minute. I just need to pivot. I need to figure out a better, smarter way to be able to serve people, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, if you like, I would recommend you guys take a look at, embracethelion.org. Because on there, Cody's got some testimonials that are just amazing of how he's been able to take people like you and me and turn them into their greatest potential. And that was partly because they were willing to do the work and partly because Cody was willing to guide them and help them. So, Cody, when you're speaking to thousands of people, when you're doing your speaking engagements, what are some of the tips that you're consistently downloading into them that you're trying to get across to everybody to help them realize this is how you become the best you?
Well, one is to stop lying to yourself, right? When we can get really, really honest with ourselves and recognize that we either are where we are or are not because of us, right? There's typically one great limiting factor, and it's between our ears. And so what you say about yourself matters, and what you commit your time to. Like, you show me what you do, and I will show you what you actually believe about yourself to be true and to be possible. So
can I stop you for a second?
Please.
Can you expound upon that? Like, can you give us some examples of, okay, you say you believe this, but you're doing this, so therefore your brain actually believes this, as opposed to what you're lying to yourself about?
Oh, man. Yeah. So you want to talk about money? You guys like to talk about money?
Absolutely.
Okay. I love to talk about money. I love money because money just comes very easily to me. That might sound very arrogant. It's an energy, just like love. Love passes through me. Money, it's just energy, right? Most people don't think that way, but you watch anyone who creates a substantial impact financially in this world, and they will all tell you they can't explain it. It's an energy, right? It is, dare I be woo and say it is like a vibration, but let's talk about money. We're always communicating something to ourselves. And if you'll allow me to throw on the theology hat for a second, in the Bible, it talks about I am, right? Well, like Moses said, who are you? I am that I am, right? Jesus, whatever you believe about Jesus, right? The dude had started a movement that nobody can touch. I am the way, I am the truth, I am the light, I am. And so when we speak affirmations, we say I am instead of I will be. When you speak to yourself, I will be successful, the brain follows what's in physics called the principle of least path. So light follows it, water follows it, any type of energy follows it. Like whatever's going to take the least amount of resistance, that's how I'm going to move. And so your brain does this. So when you say, I'm going to be successful, what are you saying about the present? I'm not successful. And so by saying, I will be one day, what you're communicating is I am actually not that. So principle of least path, your brain wants to keep you in patterns and habits that keep you perceptively safe. Listen, monkey brain just wants to keep you safe. That's a pattern. It's survival. So to say, I'm going to be rich. No, I already am rich. I am wealthy. I am wealth. I am abundant in everything that I do. I am love. I am an amazing spouse. I'm an amazing dad. I'm an amazing entrepreneur. I'm an amazing leader. And when you say I am, when you speak it into existence, so the same thing with money, right? Like, I'm going to be successful. I'm going to be rich. I'm going to be all these things. I want these things. I can remember when I was in high school, there was this girl that I really liked. And I'm telling you, I chased her, and it was just pathetic, to the point where she was so annoyed with me. Why? Because when you chase something out of scarcity, it runs from you. When you chase money out of scarcity, it runs from you. You are sending out a universal signal that this is not for me. I am scarce with it. When we try to hold on to money, right? Think of again, it's energy, right? It's just made manifest on paper. If I want to hold on to air, what happens? I'm going to pass out. When we try to hold on to money when it's supposed to pass through us because it's just an energy, well, now we open ourselves up to receive more of it. And so back to this girl. The more I chased and the more I chased, the further she ran. The more I chased money, the further it evaded me. When I focused more on solving problems and opening myself up to abundance, and abundance to love, and abundance to money, abundance to every health, wisdom, then all of a sudden my habits started to shift towards the trajectory of the things that I said that I am, right? Because feelings will follow action. So I'm going to speak these things, affirmations, every single day. We talked about this at the beginning, saying I am, powerful I am statements, so that I recalibrate my habits to form around those statements of I am. And when that happens, even if I don't believe it at first and I think I'm full of crap and my whole subconscious saying that's not you, you'll never be that, you're fat, you're broke, you're from the wrong side of the tracks, you're 5'6", you've been divorced, you're from rural Oklahoma, you're never going to be anything with your life, you're not going to do this is not who you are. No, but this is who I am. This is who I am. And this is what successful people do. And this is who I am. And I'm just another successful person. And before you know it, everything starts to shift because you're aligning to, again, what you say you actually believe, not future casting and staying put where you are. That was a long-winded answer, but.
Yeah, but it was an incredible answer. So so let's say you've got somebody and they're listening to this and they're like, Cody, I really want to do that, but I am freaking terrified because if I let go of the money and I put it into coaching, or I put it into ad spend, or I put it into, growing my business or growing my mind, growing me, right? Building me. What happens if I don't have money to feed the kids because I spent it on my business? Like that's like a, rubber hits the road. How do you transfer that into real life? I'm freaking scared. And I know I need to do this, but I don't know how to take the leap.
Absolutely. So I would say a few things. So one, I am still a very realistic business owner, provider, husband, father, right? I'm not here to tell you to put yourself in financial peril and make unwise decisions based on irrational thought processes. This is a mindset and a way of living. That doesn't mean go throw all your money into the air or burn it because you just want to experience a feeling. No, like embody the feeling as if it has already happened, but still use the discernment of a working rational brain to make decisions that are healthy and wise for your family. Now, for me, I can tell you, having invested over 6 figures in myself, just in my own development, it's returned tenfold, right? Best investments I've ever made. That said, you need to be willing to put the work in on the backside. The investment, the detachment is step one. It's stepping up to the start of the race, right? Detaching from money is it's like Monopoly. That's where we pass go, but we still got to play the game. You've still got to go all out. But now we're just moving towards passion instead of merely profit. But understand, like we are in a season where money can feel very scarce, but recognize that it's going to feel that way for most everyone. Like most everyone is scared. And I found that when you can pivot and you can be the voice that isn't, and you can be the voice that is focused on solving problems, the money finds its way to you through the problems that you solve. So for those who are nervous, are frustrated, I honor that. I understand it. I understand. I'm a dad. I'm a spouse. I get it. I understand that it's scary right now. And I don't want to come on here and sound like some guy who's just talking about how easy money is. And like, it's just like people are losing their jobs. People are losing their livelihood. People are losing homes. People are losing identities. And I know what that feels like. When I stepped out of ministry, like it's all I'd known my whole adult life. Like I lost everything. I lost all my friends because we weren't in the same circle anymore. Like I started over from less than nothing. I took my 403B, which is like a retirement. I liquidated it and I hired a coach. But in the meantime, I was building my high income skills while making ends meet with low income skills. I've been a licensed barber for 16 years. I've been a licensed mechanic for 17 years. I can build websites, do graphic design. I can give guitar lessons because I was a musician. Like I was doing everything. I was flipping Harleys while cutting hair, while doing all these things to make ends meet. So focusing on what you can do to create abundance in your life now with the skills that you have, while focusing on adapting, pivoting, creating more high income skills to solve more high income problems.
So how were you able to find those mentors that were able to extract that genius out of you so that you were able to get up to the next level from the barber and Harley flipping guy to now money comes to me because I'm able to help so many people? How are you able to find that superpower and that genius to be able to unleash to help all those people so that you were able to kind of level up?
Yeah, so I've been really blessed to have throughout my adult life some really amazing mentors, whether that be when I was in ministry and had other pastors that walk alongside me who were older and seasoned and instilled a lot of wisdom into me. And I think thankfully, even as a young 20-something who was kind of an idiot, I had the bandwidth to be able to receive that wisdom, which I'm very, very grateful for. And so when I stepped out of ministry and into doing what I do now, which has evolved over time, I knew the skill sets that I had, and I knew the call on my life. I knew what I would be doing and how I would be doing. I just didn't know how to get from point A to point B. Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's what so many people
I think
find
so many of us feel that. Like we see where we're going to go. We know it's going to happen. It's like it's like the same thing as saying the sky is blue, right? You know it. It's truth. But how do we get from A to B?
Yeah. So for me, it was aligning really strategically, being objective with myself and saying, okay, what is the one next thing that I need, whether it be in my personal life or in my professional life, that's going to move the needle forward. Right. So one of my first coaches was completely mindset. Right. And he happens to be like one of my best friends now. He walked my wife down the aisle to me. That's before awesome. Boyz II Men serenaded us. Yeah. And so, which was his gift to us, which was really amazing. But
like literally Boyz II Men, like they were actually there.
Like he's homies with them. So yeah.
Oh my gosh. That's so awesome. Yeah. Shout out to Sean Combs.
Come on. So we're working on mindset, right? And then it evolved and I recognized, okay, I need to put some marketing pieces together, right? So that's how I hired my next coach. And then it was, okay, I need to develop my brand and I need to get inside of a circle that allows me to show up more powerfully as a speaker, right? So I connected with a guy named Mark Lack, who now is a dear, dear friend. And so I just made these really strategic relationships, investing in them because understanding like, I respect your time. I respect your expertise. I'm going to pay top dollar for that because I want you to know who I am as a coach. I want you to know that like, I'm good for that. And I value myself enough and I value your time enough and your expertise. And so I've just continued to create those next right steps. And now being in the space that I am in and having access to the people that I have in my life, being able to jump on calls with really extraordinary individuals who have experience in certain areas that I don't, and be able to have those kind of mastermind conversations. The circle that you surround yourself with is incredibly important. One of my closest friends, his name's John Morgan. He lives out in Nashville. And, we make it a point to talk every week. I got a dear friend named JC who lives here in town, who is a coach and owns some gyms and is very successful. And we make it a point to connect like every other day, and making sure that I have accountability, making sure that I'm surrounded with others, whether it be men or women. Typically for me, it's men that are vision focused and vision aligned, that we gamify things and continue to move the needle forward in our lives because we want to see each other grow. That's really paramount. And so I come alongside individuals and listen, working from, helping people in startups, helping people restore their marriages, helping people overcome damage that's been done in the church, to walking alongside, 8-figure large business entrepreneurs, CEOs, and executives, and answering the questions that money doesn't, the deeper answers of the questions of impact and influence. So running really the gamut. But what I found is that we're all telling stories. I just help people tell a better story. And so if it was anything like, how do I get from point A to point B? What is the story you're writing? What is it going to take? And who is it going to take to get there? And reach out and do whatever you can to have them walk alongside you. I've hired people who aren't coaches, right? Who are just doing something that I want to do. So I'm like, this is going to sound weird, but in my industry, we pay people for their time. Can I pay you? What would it cost? What would the investment be for you to walk alongside me and help me do this thing for like 90 days? Name your price. So
is that kind of like how you were able to build the network to be able to, change who you're hanging out with, right? Because so it was through those strategic relationships and being able to hire them, and then it just kind of expanded, and kind of once you get on that inner circle, everybody kind of shares and gives. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. And you can look at it a couple different ways. Like, oh, I don't want to pay to play. That's not how I want to roll. Okay, that's fine. You don't have to. But we all have an understood mutual respect for one another in the fact that we do invest in ourselves. And so it's not that you need to invest in any one person to get inside access to something. It is that we all have a mutual respect, that we all invest in ourselves, and that brings us together. And that opens conversations that if that's not your reality, we're going to have a hard time dissecting other commonalities because we're going to fall short at the very foundation of what we find is important in life.
And I think I bring up this book all the time. Bob Burke wrote in The Go-Giver, how he talks about at the end of the book, the guy comes to him and hands him this, what would be equivalent to a multi-million-dollar deal. And he realizes he's not the best fit, that this other guy is actually a better fit. And so he actually says at that point, like he's changed his perspective so much, and he's so much into giving and helping in the community that he literally takes the deal that would have like made his year, right, and passes it off to somebody else who's actually a better fit.
Yeah.
And the book talks about, how incredibly hard that was for him, right? Because that was it. That was,
Sure.
what he was after. But then, it turns full circle, and that person actually had somebody who was a better fit for him too. And he made his year, and they both were able to serve the clients in the absolute best way because they were willing to, again, it's not a mind of scarcity. It's hey, you know what? I'm not the best thing for this. You are. So here, let me serve you this way.
Yeah.
And send you to this person because they're what's going to be best. And I think Bob Burke does an awesome job of just explaining the, inner workings of, how that works. Is it's at a certain point, the money doesn't mean anything, right?
Sure.
It doesn't. It's
Right.
all about giving and serving and how can we help?
Yeah, absolutely. It all comes down to a reciprocity, right? Of this.
Now you're gonna have to help me out. I lost that vocab word with the stroke. What's reciprocity
like
mean?
reciprocal? That means it's a constant ebb and flow. It's a constant give and receive and give and receive and give and receive, right? In marriage, we're taught to be submissive, right? Submissive to our spouse. And that doesn't mean being a doormat. It really means just holding the door open and saying you first. And it's just this continual you first, no you first, no you first. And I think that's what love does. And at the core of everything that we are either love and abundance, right? Or we're scarcity and fear. And one can't live where the other does.
And in the spirit of giving, Cody was amazing because so many of us are at home right now and we have kids that are just running around like crazy and we want to pull our hair out. And what's interesting is he says that, it's not just about giving kids what they want, but giving kids what they need. And so he created this amazing thing called correct me if I get the title wrong, a time coupon, right? It's basically a booklet.
Yeah, it's a time book.
Yeah, a time book. And so you guys, he's going to let me post that on social media and also put in the notes. Download that. It is an amazing way to be able to give to your kids because I think so many times we get so focused and in trying to move the needle forward that, like you said, if you mess up family, what does it matter if you have all of the money in the world and you've screwed up your relationship with your family, right? So he has given us that. And so I'm going to post that for you guys. Please use it. It's one of the coolest things that I've seen out there. And it's very, very timely in this environment that we're in where we're, everybody's kind of slowing down and it's back to family a little bit. Cody, how can people find you?
Yeah. So my name is Cody Jefferson. You can go to www.codyjefferson.com and you can find me there. You can find me on Instagram, Cody_Jefferson. You can find me on Facebook at Cody Jefferson. I think it'll probably be a picture of my wife and I. Please shoot me a message. Let's chat. Listen, again, I help people tell better stories, but that starts with me knowing yours. So I would love to hear your story. So shoot me a voice message, write it out. Like, let me hear who you are, what you're about, where you're from, and what the vision is for your life. I'd love to hear it.
And I'm going to ask one more question. And if you can't answer this, it's okay. But my podcast, I get to ask whatever I want.
Oh, you do?
Yeah. So for somebody who's listening to this and they're like, oh my gosh, Cody gets it. I need to work on the mindset. I need to get that squared away. That's the next guy in my path that I need to hire. What steps do they take and how big of a check do they have to write?
Yeah. So one, they just message me. Right? Like I could throw you to a link that's going to put you through like a questionnaire and a schedule page. Like we'll get to all of that. But first things first is before we talk investment, before we talk any of that, like I want to make sure that I'm the right fit to work with someone. Right. And so, and we have a tier, like there's a, what we call like an ascension ladder, right? Like there's tiers of working with me. And what that means is accessibility to me and my time. And so before we get into any of the investment piece of things, I always want to know more about the person to discern whether or not I'm the best fit for them. Because if I'm not, chances are with my network, I know who is. So I don't want anyone to think that that anything is out of reach. So rather than talk investment, I would say just shoot me a message. Let's have a conversation. Let's see what's possible and go from there.
Okay, 2 last questions.
Please.
So if you had somebody who came to you and they're a newer entrepreneur, they finally got some income coming, they're starting to burn and churn, what is one book that you would give them that you would say, you know what, this really helped me in my journey, read this one?
Yeah, so there's a book that I give every client, and they have to read it they have to read a chapter 3 times a day, and it takes them 10 months to walk through. And that book is called The Greatest Salesman in the World. Now, it's not about sales, not in the way that you think it is, but that book will change everything. So, The Greatest Salesman in the World. Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill is another extraordinary read. Loving What Is by Byron Katie is a framework that I walk every client through in helping them own what is theirs and to ask the right questions.
Awesome. And if there were 2 people that maybe you didn't have the opportunity to hire them as a coach, but maybe you watched them from afar and they helped develop you, who would they be and why did you follow them?
Well, the person that's developed me, that has helped me the most, that has been the most influential in my life would be my grandfather. And I would love to hire him and pay him. He passed away back in 2013. But he lived an extraordinary life. It was a standing room only at his funeral, like just an amazing man of God. And so I was blessed just to be raised by amazing grandparents and parents. And so my grandfather, I wish everyone could know Charlie Jefferson. And so for as long as I'm doing this, I will continue to keep that name at the forefront of everything that I do. And second, I would love to have sat down and have a conversation extensively with Napoleon Hill. I think he's just an extraordinary individual. But outside of that, I will have the conversation. We haven't had it yet, but I will have a conversation with Bob Proctor at some point because he has been very, very influential in my life as well.
So Bob Proctor was actually, he's like doing some really cool stuff right now. So if you guys haven't, Google what Bob's doing, because he's really trying to help some people right now. So that was super, super awesome little tidbit. Okay, guys, I want to respect Cody's time, so we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. But I just want to remind you, embracethelion.org and codyjefferson.com. Look him up. And Cody, I can't thank you enough for the time that you gave us today and all the incredible golden nuggets.
Oh, thank you very much. It's an honor to be here.
Thank you for tuning in to the Automate to Dominate podcast at www.awesomeoutsourcing.com/podcast. My name is Michelle Thompson.